Hello, and welcome to the special summer series of the Things I Want My Daughters to Know podcast. During the month of August, I'll be dropping 2 episodes a week, double the fun. This August, you're going to be hearing brand new episodes that I will be sharing on all my favorite topics of menopause, women's health, symptoms, midlife aging, living beyond menopause, all the things to do with periods and tracking and all those great conversations that we're having with our daughters. And in addition, I'll be dropping extra special episodes on Mondays that come from conversations I had during my online Menopause Summit. The Menopause Summit ran for 3 years, from 2022 to 2024. These are conversations specifically around menopause that are still highly relevant for today, and I can't wait for you to listen to them. So get listening. Remember to rate, share, refer, recommend, do all those amazing things that we ask you to do when you're listening to a podcast. But most importantly, have these conversations with the women in your life, with your daughters, with your sisters, with your best friends. Make sure you are sharing your favorite episodes with them. And I can't wait to have you comment and tell me what you're thinking about the conversations I'm having. Let's get on with the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Menopause Summit. I am your host, Jacqueline Rose, and today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic that has really become quite prominent in the experience of women going through perimenopause and menopause, and that is the relationship between our brain function changes, ADHD, menopause. And joining me today is Alana Stern. Alana, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. You are the ADHD specialist, so I'm really happy that you're joining me for this conversation. Tell us a little bit about who you are, specifically what you do, and then we'll dive right in.
Right. First of all, I'm delighted to be here. It's a great honor. Thank you. And I think the work you're doing is life-changing. So
thank you.
There's that. I am an ADHD coach for neurodivergent, generally. So that's generally people with ADHD. Some people with on the autism spectrum struggle with the same issues. For men and women, adults who struggle with everyday indecision and overwhelm, organization, what we call executive functions that I'll get into later. All these symptoms that some of them are mimicked in menopause. And I work with my clients together to support their challenges enough so that they can devote most of their resources to their strengths, to living what they care about and what they're good at, so that it makes an easier, happier, smoother life for them.
Amazing. Well, we do know that ADHD in adults and ADHD diagnosis in adults is becoming more prominent. It's becoming more respected. It's becoming, there's a lot more awareness about it. This isn't just a childhood thing anymore. So the work you are doing is super, super important. Let's get into our conversation about this relationship that we are seeing between ADHD, cognitive changes, menopause. Really, what starts that sort of thought process in women about this like changing brain function? Often we feel like either we've got early onset dementia, or like someone stopped my brain, or I've got cotton wool in my brain. This whole brain function. What is going on here? What is the beginning signs, or what's happening that make women start to think about, maybe there's something more than just I'm scatty?
Sure, great. So first of all, I'd like to divide this whole conversation into like 3 types of women. Well, 2 types of women. At first, menopause impacts the general population. This cognitive symptoms. We know that that estrogen drops, and with estrogen, estrogen promotes dopamine, and low dopamine produces ADHD symptoms that I'll talk about in So that's just the general population experiencing symptoms that may mimic ADHD.
Yeah.
Then we have, right, so they don't.
Yeah, so those, just to sort of do the list through,
Yes.
that general population that is experiencing changing brain function are going to experience brain fog, short-term memory loss, loss in focus, loss in concentration, and not being able to follow things, reading a book and coming to the end of the page and thinking, what the hell did I just read?
Yes.
Sitting in a meeting and like not really being able to follow or losing track. Those very classic, typical cognitive changes.
Right, exactly. And then we have these women who have lived this all their life, what you just described, have lived this all their life. And now, with lowering estrogen and their dopamine going even lower, they're experiencing even more difficulty. Sorry if I'm looking down, it's because my notes need to be handwritten.
No,
that's what I've discovered.
That's good. That's fine.
So they may need adapting the treatments or the methods that you'll notice me and my forgetting words, but that what worked for them in the past might need adapting.
Right.
Suddenly at age 40 plus, they might have been on medication, or the strategies that they've used all their lives stop working as well.
Yeah.
And
so
then
they've noticed something has changed in their coping mechanisms or the extent of how their symptoms are showing up. It's something they always knew they were struggling, or they adapted to their challenges, but now something has shifted even more.
It gets aggravated, right? It gets aggravated. And by the way, this gets aggravated it starts in puberty. That girls in puberty start to struggle. It starts PMS, PMDD. There's a strong connection. 2 out of 3 women with ADHD surveyed mentioned they had PMDD. Wow. So it's just that this menopause is that continued low state of estrogen.
Right.
Postpartum women with ADHD struggle more before their periods. They struggle more. Yeah. Okay.
And the third group?
The third group is these women who, it's similar to they are undiagnosed, because ADHD doesn't have to be a dysfunction. It can be just a different brain wiring. And the way that you've been raised, or the way that you figure things out for yourself, supports your difference enough that you don't need any external support until suddenly, and when I share my experience with you, this was my experience, and I got diagnosed with ADHD a year ago.
Right. So you've got the women who are your general population, no previous ADHD diagnosis, functioning fine, but all of a sudden it feels like they are an ADHD candidate. Then you've got those people who were always diagnosed, but things get worse. And then you've got those people who are maybe borderline functioning, doing okay, but all of a sudden in midlife are getting diagnosed.
Okay. So they called it moving from mild ADHD all your life to getting more severe.
Okay. Yeah. So what are the cognitive symptoms that are affected by these hormonal fluctuations, and how are we seeing these similarities? We've sort of touched on it between these cognitive impacts of menopause and the typical traditional ADHD symptoms. And also, I think maybe it's important to mention, we're using the term ADHD. Should we be using ADD? Are we being inclusive
Good
enough?
Question.
Yes, I'm not the expert here, but I want to make sure that I'm being sensitive to be as inclusive.
And then everybody says, well, this is not me because I'm not ADHD, I might have ADD. So yes, I think the DSM-5, whenever that came out, decided to do away with the term ADD, which is more, and just incorporate 3 different or a few different presentations of ADHD. One is that impulsive, hyperactive, that's impulsive and hyperactive, which is combined. It's more like those 7-year-old little boys bouncing off the walls. And another one is inattentive. Now you can have different combinations of that. And inattention was more the dreamy girl sitting at the back of the class, who's just forgotten about.
Yes.
So we're talking about all of those when
All
we
of
talk
those.
about ADHD. And
So
the women,
today, so today, ADHD is basically the general term that is used to include all of those diagnoses.
Yes. It's more and more people are saying now that it involves very clearly like executive dysfunction. And I'll talk about what executive functions are now, because those are what's also affected in menopause.
Okay.
So like our executive functions are the kind of brain skills. They're the newer part. They sit in the newer part of like evolutionary part of the brain. And it's like the logic part, the thinking forward part, the future focused part of our brain. It's the part of the skills that we use to get stuff done. Yeah. And when we get stuff done, we achieve our goals.
Yes.
Whereas the other part of the brain is the more like survival. Okay. So a big important executive function is working memory, which is like the ability. It's not short-term memory, it's not long-term memory, it's ability. It's like your bucket that you have to hold in mind while you need to use it. Right. So whereas most people can only possibly hold 7, I think it's proven that most people can only hold 7 things in mind at a time. That's why phone numbers used to be 7. Generally, a person with ADHD can hold 4 or 2, and I think so your bucket gets smaller in menopause. What does that mean? It means you're going to walk into a room and forget what you got, why you went there. It's going to cause, and what are the symptoms that look like ADHD symptoms? Forgetfulness, overwhelm, because it's difficult to hold everything in your head, to remember all the things you have to do, and then also figure out, well, which is more important than the other one when it's all in your head. So a lot of the ways that we treat this working memory difficulty is by externalizing everything, and prioritizing out. Get it out your head and in front of your eyes.
So I'm just looking here at all the papers that are next to my computer with all my notes and all my things, and yes,
more of my brain is outside of my body than inside my body right now. I think,
and these expressions that you're beginning to talk about, I want you to continue talking about the executive function. You're describing what is happening at the moment to a perimenopausal woman, but this is really what an ADHD woman is experiencing. And let's say an ADHD diagnosed woman is experiencing on a regular day at the age of 25, 35. She's not waiting to 45 to feel this.
Yes. So that it's just an interesting thing to say, that sometimes when people say I'm having an ADHD moment, people with ADHD sometimes get a little bit, feel a little bit disregarded, or not unappreciated. What's the word? Like unseen.
Offended.
Because they're having an ADHD life.
Right.
So,
right.
Just another interesting one of this impact of the working memory thing is you would find yourself going chains and chains of distraction, because you do things for fear of forgetting them. Right. Like you'll be doing something and then you flip to the next thing because of your fear of forgetting. And so whereas here's maybe a distinction. Typical ADHD, you struggle with the focus, as it is, with just staying focused. I think with neurotypical menopausal women who say, I'm experiencing a difficulty focusing, some of the time it's a difficulty staying focused because I'm worried I'll forget the other things.
Yes. Or you get distracted by, let's say, like the pinging of the phone or that WhatsApp message that you need to respond to now, because if you don't respond to it now, you're going to forget to respond to it, and then you get distracted from the thing you're supposed to be doing.
And if you think if you were 20, I mean, we didn't have WhatsApp things when we were 20, so maybe there's a lot more of that going on.
Old,
but when we were
very
20,
old.
Right, and if we were studying for a test and I don't know, the phone rang or what, if we had WhatsApp pings, I think in our brains would be sharper, clearer to say, I'm studying now, later I'll remember to call that person back. And we don't have that capacity anymore.
Yeah.
And then another interesting thing, and we said, like this chain of estrogen promotes dopamine. Dopamine promotes a feel for time processing. So you might notice your time management skills are lower. You difficulty estimating how long things are going to take. Your feeling for time weakens.
Yeah.
And of course the emotional regulation, which is one of these executive functions here. So you've got, I think just in general with menopause, you've got the dopamine, which helps, well, lower dopamine, which helps your ability to to regulate the volatility of your emotions. So you might see yourself becoming more emotionally volatile in menopause. And then there's the serotonin, I think, right? The estrogen also affects serotonin.
Yes.
That can leave you feeling anxious and depressed. And even if you don't have ADHD, anxiety and depression affect your ability to access your executive functions here.
Executive function.
A lot of fun and games.
So we've got a fantastic, perfect storm of cognitive impairment. I was wondering when to mention this, but everything that you were saying, and I know we've still got a lot more to talk about, but I think I want to bring it up here. The fantastic Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who talks about brain function changes as a result of changing estrogen levels as a result of menopause. Her latest book is called The Menopause Brain. And one of the things that she is very, very much talking about, and it's just everything you're saying is bringing me to this. She says perimenopause, menopause, it is not a reproductive triggered experience. It is a brain triggered experience. The brain is the starting point of your perimenopause, menopause experience. Yes, it then goes down to ovaries and reproduction and all other things, but the brain is the starting point of the perimenopause, menopause trigger experience. And really we need to see menopause as a brain changing experience. And it just fits so closely with all the things you're saying, because we don't, I mean, she really is the pioneer in changing this approach and changing this conversation around how we understand brain function and perimenopause and menopause in women, why the Alzheimer and dementia rates are so much higher in women, why ADHD diagnosis is so much higher in women. And so I just wanted to mention that over here, because it is about estrogen in the brain. It is about real brain function changes. It is not just, brain fog and I can't remember where I put my keys.
On the plus side, I mean, in my experience, you'll see that whatever, I went through a relatively early perimenopause and menopause for reasons I will explain later. So I did a lot of my own research, and on the plus side, this brain, the shifting brain allows us a different level. It allows like this wisdom and this access to these. There are different brain waves. I think that the shifts in hormones change your brain waves to access that like wisdom and intuition that we didn't have the time for when we were caring for our children and our families.
So if you're happy to share your personal experience, because you have been on your own journey, tell us sort of how you have engaged with this process and your own diagnosis and your work with the women that you sort of this demographic and population. What where does your story fit into this larger narrative, this larger conversation?
So I was always a very organized. I think it's like one of my top strengths is organizing things. I'm extremely organized. I was the dreamy, imaginative person as well, whatever. And everything was going great. Suddenly, age 4, I had my last child at 38. at age 40, I probably finished nursing and everything. At age 40, suddenly I was running 2 successful businesses on my own. I built 2 businesses on my own. One of them was a teaching business, and I was teaching in a class, and I felt like when I would stand up in front of these kids, I felt, after teaching for 20 years, I felt like it was my first day as a teacher.
Wow.
The anxiety hit me so deeply. And depression, yes, there were, you know, in everybody's part, not everybody, but a lot of people's pasts, there are things that could produce a depression, but the level, the experience, the depression just got really heavy out of the blue, no external reasons.
Yeah.
And digging, a brain fog went up. I felt a drastic difference in my working memory. I couldn't, like, my daughters would tell me I've got the test on Wednesday, and then I kept on having to ask, well, when's the test again? When's the test again? I felt myself like just more disorganized. I couldn't plan properly as I did before. I was procrastinating more. I couldn't stay focused. At the same time, another family member found out that she got diagnosed with as a carrier of Fragile X, which is a mutation that affects your X chromosome, which is probably very related to it. One of the symptoms is early menopause.
Right.
So we kind of figured out that the 2 of us, I think it must have been 45, you know, that it's hard to tell that, you know, they say after a year of no period. So I had 18 months without a period. So what, but whatever, like,
yeah,
43, I would say 43, 44, I was done. But I was, so
done.
perimenopause was 40 to 44, and it was intense. The hot flashes were crazy.
Yeah.
The anxiety, the depression, and all the brain fog. Happened to be coincidentally, or some plan from the universe above, that was the same time I decided to train in ADHD coaching at the same age. Originally, I'd worked with kids my whole life for 20 years. I originally thought I was going to keep working with kids with ADHD. And lo and behold, I kept saying all these things I was learning, these strategies were like so brilliant to me, and they really, really helped me.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of my path towards working with adult women. I also work with adult men with ADHD. About a year ago, I finally decided I'm going to go and investigate an ADHD diagnosis for myself. You know, a lot of my clientele, undiagnosed, really struggle with this fear of, what if I go there and it's not ADHD and then I'm just lazy? Or
yes.
So there's a lot of things like I'm just validating that's a fear that holds people back. There's a fear of, well, not a fear, but it's like, well, I'm not going to take medication anyway, so what's the point?
Right.
But I do believe there's a point in getting an explanation and understanding your struggles are not a character flaw.
Yeah.
Anyway, eventually I talked myself into it. And this is exactly what she said, what we've been talking about. It sounds like you had mild ADD all your life, ADHD all your life, that has become severely aggravated by menopause. I started taking stimulant medication, and I wonder if I could share my screen with you. I've got like a little video clip of what it. Am I allowed to share my screen?
Yes, I'm going to let you share your screen.
Let me just get it.
You're going to be the first speaker who has shared their screen. Go for it.
Because I describe this. Okay, see, multitasking also a problem. I can't talk to you and find at the same time. Let's just see where it is.
Yeah, we'll give you a minute.
Give me a second. Tell me when you press. This is what it felt like. This was the experience for me. How stimulant medication treated my brain fog.
Okay.
It felt like a lifetime of clouds. I'll stop sharing. You know that whole.
Yeah.
Like a lifetime of cloudy, just hearted.
Wow. Wow.
And I mean, it's not magic. There's like, you know, it helps me focus, but I still have to choose to focus on the right thing. And that's where we have a saying in the ADHD community that the pills are not the skills. So the pills give me the ability to focus, but I have to choose what I'm going to focus on. And that's
so even though you were super organized and you were running 2 businesses and you were very high achieving, this is really important. It's a really important piece that I want to stress, because I think there are many, many women out there who are in positions of responsibility, in work, have their own businesses, are leaders in their business community, in their social community. They are busy doing things, organized, you know, and all of a sudden something switches. And as you described, something just changed where you were unable to function at that level that you had been functioning, even though you probably were borderline ADHD for all those years. And I think that it's so validating to hear your story, because I think so many women feel so much shame and uncertainty and confusion, and they don't want to reveal to their team, to their boss, to their colleagues, to whoever, that this is what they're going through.
Oh, wow, that's another whole can of worms. That whole, how do you, I mean, we do talk about how do you advocate for yourself with ADHD in the workplace, and then I can imagine now, right, the same thing with the menopause.
Yeah. Look, I will tell you that I had a client years ago who said to me, I've been following you for ages. I love what you do. She came to me, she worked for me, and she said to me, I won't talk about it, and I won't be able to share or comment on any of your posts, because I don't want any of my colleagues to know that I'm going through this.
Yes.
So, you know, you can be really high achieving, and all of a sudden, either because of, you know, neurotypical perimenopause, menopausal changes, or you are always neurodiverse with a diagnosis or without a diagnosis, and things just drop off the cliff. So that's what I think a lot of women are hearing, what a lot of women are experiencing, but we really are not talking about this specific piece of the menopause conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting. That whole, right, that it's like growing up in a world that is built with, you know, whatever the male male hormonal levels in mind, which is like, I mean, I know they affect them a little bit at like sick, you know, but right, how do you function in a corporate world built for male hormones? Very interesting.
And so many working women who have spent years, and we know this, and there are statistics being thrown out from the UK that 900,000 women in midlife are leaving the workforce. We know about all the massive support of menopause in the workplace that is happening, a lot because of exactly what you're describing here, that whether, you know, regardless of what stage of the career ladder you're on, you have spent years in your career, investing in your career, investing in, you know, being respected and being part of, you know, a work environment, and all of a sudden something has changed. You don't know what it is. You can't talk about it. You don't want to admit it, you know, and I think your example of the fact that you had grown 2 successful businesses and all of a sudden felt like you were back at square one.
That's a metaphor for like the drasticness of the change that I felt. I'll just say, I just want people to notice also that you may, if you have undiagnosed ADHD, or you may be self-medicating unknowingly with things like sugar, coffee, and waiting for the last minute, because that helps, the adrenaline helps you focus. So just, those are interesting pieces.
And also we know that the sugar, coffee, potentially alcohol are going to exacerbate some of those symptoms.
And just to round off my story, which is not really finished, you know, I hope it's not finished, I have recently also started trying out some kinds of hormone therapy. And then maybe that would, playing with stimulant medication, hormone stimulant, you know, because the hormone, I'll say they have other protective factors that stimulant medication does not have. They're going to protect me from osteoporosis that my mother has now. And I'm sure you've got other experts that
yeah,
that
no,
will
but that's
deal with
really
all of that.
important, is that the medication for treating the ADHD or cognitive changes only treat that specific piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell us your sort of what you're seeing with your clients. Tell us what you're seeing with sort of the impacts of hormones. Sort of what is your experience with your actual clients and with the women that you work with?
Yeah. So look, most of my clients are women who have experienced what we're talking about their entire lives. And then they've got all the emotional effects of those struggles, and they're feeling lazy, you know, feeling like you're lazy or you're incapable, or why can't I do this? They all notice aggravation of their symptoms, not all, so many aggravation of their symptoms around their menstrual cycle. I'm not sure. I don't have that. I haven't worked with that many menopausal women, but although I have with some of them.
Yeah.
But the same. Let's talk about treatment, and then we'll talk about treatment and what you can do, and then, because then I can divide that into those 3 profiles as well. So let's talk about first your general population that has never been diagnosed with ADHD and doesn't fit the bill for child. I think to have a diagnosis of ADHD, and these are all just like boxes and labels, you have to have experienced these difficulties throughout your life, or to a certain extent.
Okay, so let's look at that neurotypical woman who hits perimenopause and is now experiencing these ADHD characteristics.
Yes. So pharmacological treatments, you know, other people are going to talk to you about this, the hormone therapy, I mean, it's just interesting also that there have been a series of studies on women without ADHD had been given ADHD medication. A lot of this came out of the fact that one of these top leading psychiatrists was diagnosing kids, and a lot of the mothers were saying, you know, that sounds like me, but I didn't, you know, that's the general experience with undiagnosed ADHD. But also a lot of women were saying, I never suffered before like this, but I'm starting to suffer like this.
Yes.
So I think Thomas Brown describes this experience. I don't know if he did the studies, but it was seen that even these women without ADHD, their cognitive symptoms improved with stimulant medication. I love what you said about that. That's not gonna help you with all your protective factors.
With bones, heart, all the other things that we need.
Yeah. So, and then, I mean, you're gonna also talk about all the other lifestyle choices that support your estrogen, right?
Yes.
That support you know, that support good brain function. So I always talk, even with treating ADHD, with this pyramid, and the bottom is the sleep, nutrition, movement, hydration, right? Those 4. Did I get them all? Yeah. I think maybe mindfulness, these kind of things. If you're suffering from anxiety or depression and you treat that, that's going to clear your mind for accessing the executive functions. And then I'll talk about what I do a little bit later, and you can see.
Okay.
For women diagnosed with ADHD, I said often in menopause you have to tweak your treatment, your ADHD medication if you're taking on it, the type of release. You know, maybe you have to change the mode of release that the stimulant is giving you, or consider adding some hormonal treatment. For the undiagnosed woman who's thinking, like, I'm really feeling these things now, and possibly maybe I struggled my whole life, but I had support from, I was doing well. You can seek a diagnosis from someone, I would say not a neurologist, I would say adults seeking a diagnosis. It's important to go to a psychiatrist who will take a full history.
Right.
And to see, like, what's at best, I have a wonderful recommendation from a woman's psychiatrist who knows about hormones too, you know, to be able to pull apart, well, what's hormonal and what was possibly that. And then depending on what the answer, if you got the diagnosis or not, you choose which route to go to.
Right.
Just like the kind of field that I'm in, which kind of focuses on the skills rather than the pills.
Yes.
You would say there CBT, which is like a very practical kind of therapy.
Yeah.
Or this cog fund, which is actually I think it originated in Israel. It's more, they developed it for kids, but people are starting to, like OT, occupational therapists are starting to use it with adults as well. Those two things I mentioned build executive functioning skills, like all your planning, prioritizing, time management. And ADHD coaching, which I'll explain to you a little bit now. What's the difference between CBT or CogFun and ADHD coaching?
Okay.
CBT, they concentrate on the skill building, whereas I do the same, but it's just a different approach. I view my client differently. I don't call them a patient. I call them a client, because just in general, anyone who's familiar with coaching, the foundational belief is that that person sitting opposite me is a whole, resourceful, capable person who's not broken, they're not a problem, they don't have a problem that needs to be fixed. We partner together as peers to work on. I don't believe that we have to get your skills perfect. I believe that we just have to support your executive function skills enough so that you have enough time, energy, resources to build a life that you really like, that's fulfilling and happy. And so that was just a little bit of a difference.
So we've talked about the potential for some type of hormonal support, and everyone there are in the summit, we talk about HRT quite a bit, but this is very specifically for brain support. We know that estrogen, as we've talked about, is very brain protective. And that definitely is potentially one route you can go down, which will give you long-term brain support, but you still may need in this critical stage either some other stimulant support, some medication, some of the more typical drug medication that can help you get sort of back to functioning. And then you've got the skills and the strategies. Can you maybe share with us a couple of things that you really recommend, you know, sort of, should we always have a pen and paper next to us so we can write notes? Should we be, you know, are there certain things that, you know, women at this stage should be doing as a, you know, basic essential life skills thing?
I apologize. I apparently didn't plug in my computer, so I'm just gonna plug it in now.
No problem.
Just that my battery's running low. See, there you go. There's your memory. Okay, we plugged in. Sorry. Yes. So refresh my memory. See, you're seeing this in work.
Yes. The practical skills that we can, a couple of things that we can really start doing that are going to be
get it out of your head and in front of your eyes. Don't rely on your head for anything. Now that I work with my clients on how to make the best systems. Is that something that you do like on a task management system? Do you do it on many pieces of paper? Do you do it on one planner? Get it out of your head. That would be for like the planning, organization. For time, a sense of time feeling, analog clocks give you a much better sense of time passing or understanding time than digital clocks.
Interesting.
For the focusing, you may have to have shorter spurts of focus. Also with that timer, with the timer counting down, that can help you focus. All the other things that help you focus, if you need to focus, do it after some exercise or some good brain food, or if you are trying to focus and you remember something you have to do, keep a little piece of paper next to you and just
Yeah.
write it down. And then
I think some people
yeah.
also find that they have more energy and focus maybe in morning hours. Some people
Yes.
need certain environments. I know, as you can see, I work here on my dining room table. When I need to focus on specific work tasks, or I know I need to, like, a block of time, I need to leave the house. Being in my
Yes.
house is very
Yes.
distracting for me, even if there's no one at home.
Yes.
I will tell you, and I think I've shared this with you personally in the past, I am a queen at productive procrastination, which is you think you're being super productive because you put the laundry on and you've made dinner and you've swept the floors and you've unloaded the dishwasher, but that is not really, that's actual procrastination on the things that you on your to-do list.
And from an ADHD lens, if I may, what causes you to do that is that you get a quicker dopamine hit from I finished the laundry than working on a summit that's you're not really feeling the rewards until later in the future. So when procrastination is not necessarily always a choice for women with ADHD. Often it's like it's a self-medicating way to build up your dopamine. It's let me feel good, let me do this because or respond to that WhatsApp gives me a dopamine hit.
Yeah, because it's a task that you can complete and say, right, I did that.
Yes.
But it may not actually be on your to-do list of, you know, things that actually are what you've assigned yourself for that day.
So then another one of my, like a really important tip I would offer, if I may, is if you do have something more amorphous, long-term, a project you're working on that you really care about, by breaking it down into shorter stages, checking off each stage gives you more of that dopamine feeling.
Yeah, that feeling that you have completed a task, and therefore that reward response.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So when we're talking about and thinking about strategies and treatments, we've sort of covered a range of them. Is there anything else really that we need to be thinking about, that we need to be aware about, that we need to be sort of, as this brain function is changing? Is this sort of the end for us? What happens in postmenopause? Does it come back? You and I are still in that perimenopause, menopause phase, but are you seeing or hearing about sort of, is this the diagnosis forever? Is this the, you know, our cognitive function forever? Are we able, do we get any of it back?
Yes. I don't know if we get any of it back, but I think that life, the universe, the higher power, whatever, is kind to us in a way that we have young children and big family responsibilities when we're at our executive functioning best. And I mean, there are women being diagnosed with ADHD in their 60s and their 70s now. And I don't, in general, what happens with it? Like, is the research showing that mild cognitive impairment that they're calling this returns? I mean, there's studies that talk about training your memory and stuff. I'm not sure, like the jury's out on that.
Well, I definitely think that we know that the more you are, the more you work with your brain, the more that you keep it stimulating.
Yes.
The more that we are
learning new languages, playing musical instruments. Yes, learning.
And I think just sort of keeping yourself engaged and stimulated in whatever, you know, hobbies and different things, keeps it all going. But definitely because of the hormonal piece, there is changing brain function. So as you've said, the strategies that are not only the very day-to-day strategies, but the larger strategies of supporting estrogen levels, whether you do that with hormonal support or lifestyle support or nutrition support or whatever way you do it.
Yes.
You mentioned dopamine, you mentioned serotonin. Just sort of as maybe like a final question, because we hear so much about these brain feel good. I talk with my clients a lot about the brain feel good hormones: dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin. Do you want to touch on that? Talk about sort of the role that they play in any of this and how we should be supporting them, those hormones?
So I just know that it's very clear that ADHD is related to a difficulty regulating your dopamine levels.
Right.
That's my expertise. I also know that, I mean, I wonder, like a chicken and an egg situation with depression or anxiety. Is it depression or anxiety that lowers your serotonin, or is it serotonin that brings the...
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it is that, well, either, yeah, I don't know so much how that works, but women with ADHD suffer from anxiety, more anxiety and depression than the general population, especially undiagnosed, growing up undiagnosed. Serotonin, I'm not familiar so much with the other hormonal effect on ADHD, but they are. First of all, you should know that May is, I think what May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So the ADHD community is taking on in May a huge, not a program, what do you call it?
Campaign.
Like a campaign to, they're actually calling it We Demand Attention, to demand more research to ADHD in women.
Right.
Because all the research, why do people, you know this, why do people prefer to research men? Because their hormones were just stable throughout.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's this huge campaign about demanding more, the relationship between hormones and ADHD, menopause and ADHD. So that's going on. That's
right amazing now. Yeah. I definitely think that we are only really at the beginning of these conversations. This conversation is, you know, there are very few people talking about this relationship between ADHD and menopause, and the way that you've, you know, divided it up into the 3 categories of women. And I think that really the work that you are doing is super important, because it really is cutting edge in this larger conversation, because, you know, we've only ever thought it menopause to have the conversations about hot flashes, maybe low libido, maybe weight gain. Brain fog has been there always. You know, we know there's cognitive changes, but as just another type of symptom that can happen. But really understanding the profound ways that executive function, working brain, anxiety and depression really are potentially very significant for women at this stage of life. So okay,
and if I may end off in a little bit of a more positive note,
please do.
In my personal experience and research and everything, there's 2 books that, well, you know, there's the huge Bible, Christine Northrup's I don't know what it's called, not the women bodies, but the menopause. The menopause. And the menopause, a book called the Menopause Manifesto. I don't remember who it's by, but these people they talk about this brain changes again as being, we're not like just getting older until we put out to pasture. We are joining this tribe of higher wisdom women. And
the Dr. Christiane Northrup book is called The Wisdom of Menopause, which I think really reflects that sort of thing. That, and I think you expressed it very, very well, is that our brains are changing, but at the same time, there is another piece of our brain that is opening up. It's not just all doom and gloom and that our brains are not working as well. There is, we are now able to access this wisdom, this confidence, this sense of self. This other area of our brain is actually being opened up as we navigate.
I think it's also, it's like a more inner movement, you know, more moving to within from the external world, and it's quite a solid feeling. Like there's positivity to that too.
Well,
Thank
this
you
has
so
been
much for hosting me.
fascinating. No, this has been really, really amazing. I think it's so many women need to hear this. So many women are struggling with this because there really is this growth all of a sudden in ADHD diagnosis of midlife women. You've really helped us understand this topic so much more. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom
for the opportunity
and your knowledge with us.
That was great,
Thank
and well
you,
done.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us at this session of the Menopause Summit. Join us at the next session. We have lots more exciting speakers and topics. Looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.